I'd love if you could start with introducing yourself and your role at Del Taco.
Absolutely. Erin Levzow, Vice President of Marketing Technology for Del Taco Restaurants, a 600 restaurant unit chain based out of California. I do live in Wisconsin, so a little bit different there, and throughout the US. So, and excited about a growing company that I'm with. Joined in September of 2020, so right mid pandemic, and have been doing a lot of great work with the team.
Cool. And one thing that I thought was fascinating about your role is it was actually created post-pandemic. Like you just joined last year, so um, tell us a little about what it's like. Like how do you design a role? I think you worked with your org to create the role. How did you do that, and how is that process coming into a job like that during this time different than maybe what it looks like for the previous places you worked?
Well, I think one thing we learned during the pandemic is that we accelerated technology, not just in QSR, but in all facets. We saw technology speed up real fast. And there was a need for it because people couldn't just walk into a store anymore. They couldn't walk, everything was shut down. So the only way to get your message, whether through advertising or through experiential, whatever it might be, was through digital technology in one form or another. So Tim, who is our CMO, he reached out and said that they were building this position and what did it looked like, and he had this idea. It didn't exist before. It was a piece of the puzzle, but a smaller piece of the puzzle, and he knew that it was going to continue to grow and continue to be important and even grow faster now during the pandemic. And so after a lot of conversations, Del Taco is an amazing company. It already has amazing food, but also an amazing group of people to work with. And when I say amazing, like I'm sure everybody's like, my team's amazing. My team's amazing. Like they are so passionate, and it's this feeling of like, whatever you need, I'm here to help you. And you're more worried about having to be like, no, take a break, like go take a break, like you're fine, thanks for, like, people want to work hard because they're passionate about driving the business forward, and everybody in the organization is like that cross functionally. So it made it easy to want to join that team and to want to drive marketing technology, which I have a strong passion for because I geek out over it and what's next and what futuristic things can happen. And so we started talking, and by September, I think my first day was September 14th. I was ready to go. And I still have yet to meet almost everybody that I work with in real life.
Yeah, that's crazy that you have such a strong bond with the team without ever meeting anyone in person. So with creating this new role, like what were some of the things that were most important to you? Like did you need more organizational freedom, or like what were the things that like in creating the role that you asked for?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I believe that if you're a good marketer, you can market anything. And so I have worked in restaurant, I've worked in retail, I've worked in hotels, casinos, hospitality, you name it, fine dining, all the way down to QSR or even food trucks, right? And I truly do believe that if you are a marketer worth your salt, you're going to be successful no matter what it is you're marketing, because you'll understand what the consumer wants. So then to me, it was less about like, all right, what am I marketing? And it was more about who am I doing it with? And who are those people? And so for me, it's about finding the team that I mesh with the best, that is open to ideas and is positive and wants to be inclusive. And that was really exciting. So when I say, that's what I mean when I say they're an amazing team, like people just fit together to push the business forward. And it's so diverse and dynamic, the types of people inside of the organization, but all with the same goal. And that's exciting. And that's what I was looking for when joining. It made it a very easy. Also, QSR doing really well right now. And I did leave. I was the CMO at Marcus Hotels and Resorts before this. Love that company as well, but hospitality will return and absolutely will rebound. It's just going to take a little bit longer.
Yep. Tell us about some of the things that you've been able to do since September, because you mentioned that able to do a whole lot more, faster, these days. What are some of those things that you've gotten done that might have been harder without just not during a pandemic?
Yeah, the good news is so I joke that my job is to do anything that touches a digital device, whether it's a phone or a computer, which means everything, right? Everything that we do touches some sort of digital device. And the group really accepted me right away in a way that was like, didn't we just hire someone? We should call her and get her input. And so I was very quickly onboarded, whether it was looking at what a digital menu board might look like in the future, or marketing technology. Like we have an app, an offers engine app, and getting involved with that. Our delivery service providers, which I'll be honest, when I joined, they kept calling them DSPs. And I know DSPs to mean demand side platform. So I was like, well, I don't understand what this means. And come to find out that DSPs mean delivery service providers in this case. And so it's your Uber Eats, your Postmates, your DoorDash, your Grubhub, and getting involved with those conversations, which are necessary right now because a lot of people can't leave their house. They need a way to order delivery. And we found that online ordering, delivery, all of that, very, very vital right out of the gate once the pandemic hit, right? We all saw that March and April were to think back just a year ago and think, I still thought we were only 2 weeks into it and we were going to come out of it. I remember when we had to tell people at my last position, like we had to lay them off we were like, it's just 2 weeks, leave your stuff at your office. Like we'll all be back together soon. So not true, but it's weird to think back. But once we got through March and April, we quickly saw online ordering, all of those things just skyrocket for the industry. And so I've been able to onboard into all of those things very, very quickly. And then if you had listened, our CEO recently spoke about the fact that we will be launching loyalty in the fall. I am actively working on a CRM project.
Cool. That's super exciting. And aside from all the screens, one thing we mentioned when we were talking earlier is consumer behavior hasn't only changed in terms of how we interact with screens. Also with people commuting less or working like different hours at home. How are those kind of changes impacting Del Taco's business, and maybe how do those changes even like relate to how you think about engagements on digital?
Yes. So when people changed their travel patterns, right? They stayed home. They didn't have to commute to work every day. All QSR saw that breakfast, which is so important. People don't make it a event. Everybody doesn't get together and go, you know what, guys, let's all go get breakfast at this QSR restaurant this morning. Like, no, it's a swing by, right? You drive through the drive-through, you grab your breakfast on your way to wherever you're going. But people weren't going anywhere. So of course, as a QSR space, we saw breakfast take a hit. But at the same time, with late night, when you look at late night menus, there are plenty of restaurants who make a lot of money on late night, bars, etc. They couldn't during the pandemic because it was shut down. And I jokingly say that like I lived in Vegas for 10 years and I loved going to Del Taco in the like late wee hours of the morning. But you're not doing that because you're not out and about. We saw other types of dinner and other meal times do very well. So did the rest of the QSR space. And the other thing we saw was because people had nowhere to go, while they weren't going out as a group for breakfast, people were getting together and being like, I don't know, what do you want for dinner? And like a husband and a wife and kids, they'd be like, I don't know, maybe we should go through the drive-through. And everybody's like, I'll come, because people just wanted out of their house. So now you have entire families coming through the drive-through because that's the only experiential thing they could do during the shutdown. And it's kind of
like
fun.
the drive-through is a destination instead of like something that someone's doing en route to somewhere else. That's
exactly.
awesome.
So it's been good to see all of this. There are studies out there right now that say that people believe that it's going to come back like the Roaring 20s. Others want to know what's going to stick and what's not going to stick. And I think we don't know yet. We don't know which part of this will become the norm and which part of this will go back to whatever was before.
Yep. And how do you navigate those unknowns with like your team and planning? Is it just is it more about being agile and being able to make decisions faster? Or do you have like different plans for different paths of reopening? How are you thinking about that?
I think there are different plans out there, and of course that for people much smarter than I am that put together a lot of the details of these plans. However, I think what has behooved us the most has been to be agile, as you mentioned, and that flexibility of like Okay, that happened. Let's turn. And I think, again, not just for my company, for other companies, once we saw this pandemic hit, companies that did it really well basically threw everything they knew out the window and went, let's pivot, right? Let's take the base, the groundwork of foundation of our knowledge, right? We're all smart people. What do we need to do now? And everybody, it was like all hands on deck. Everybody was working really hard because nobody knew what tomorrow brought. And there is a level of anxiety that comes with that, right? We all felt it. And I always say, like, you don't want to lose sight of a good crisis or a good, and it sounds so horrible because we're going through a pandemic and that's horrible to say, but there is opportunity in it. And the opportunity is to bring people closer together. Even though we physically couldn't be together, the conversations that were being had, the insight into someone's children walking by them or the dog walking by in the middle of them trying to push the business forward, that drives groups and teams together. And so again, it was throwing some of that stuff out the window and going, all right, how do we pivot? How do we pivot together? All hands on deck. How do we do this? And it grows stronger and more passionate teams.
Yep. Nice. And so let's talk a little bit more about the app too. So did you have an app before the pandemic, or how long has the app been around?
We currently have an app. We've had an app for about 3 years. And if anyone's listening, if you download the app, you get 2 free Del Tacos, I believe. And so it's a good deal. Downloading right now. And you'll get offers sent to your phone or through your email. And it is an offers based app. There is no loyalty in it. It is something we're actively working on and building, but it's allowed us to roll something out and test it and start to understand our consumers a little more, because that's really our goal, is to understand like what drives them to Del Taco. And until we have that data, like as we've gone through and gathered that data, it was all hypothesis, right? Like I know why I go, you know why you go to Del Taco, and you hear stories through research and development of different intercepts of customers, but the data really helps tell the story.
Yep. And I have to imagine that with more people ordering online and using the app, that app usage is up and you're collecting more of that data than before the pandemic.
Not just app, everywhere is up, right? Digitally, it's creating that frictionless, that, which I hate that word, but that no touch customer experience. And this idea that curbside's always been a thing, right? That wasn't a surprise that people could pull up and get their food, but the pandemic accelerated it. So now everybody has curbside. Food lockers are really trendy right now. You can see them at Wingstop or different restaurants. There was an article last week, I think, in InPerson about it. It's just accelerating this need to be able to create an experience where I do not have to interact with a person if I don't want to. We've been talking about that in the digital space for years, but nobody else in organizations was like, yeah, we should probably do that, until the pandemic hit and it sped up. I'll give you an example. When I worked in hospitality, for years and years and years on our roadmap, we said mobile check-in with your phone, being able to check into your hotel room without coming to the front desk was important. And people go, well, even like Hilton, who is a massive brand, had a small uptick on people doing that. And so in this case, it's hard to push that forward and say, this is the cost to do that. We should do it. And companies are going, I don't know, let's wait. Pandemic hit, everybody did it. You go to any hotel, I bet you can check in without going to the front desk. And I bet you can open your door with your phone, right? You don't have to touch anything, which means that you don't have to sanitize anything. Those are all really positive things on how the pandemic has accelerated technology.
Yeah. And do you think those kind of changes in consumer behavior are going to stick around for a while? Like, do you think like things like curbside pickup are up and are going to stay up, or do you think when
I do. And here's why I think that. But I thought this before, and so I was wrong before. I think for real now, because the pandemic accelerated it, is that it will stay, but we will take more appreciation into the true human connection of like me looking at you in the eye and saying hello, or I'd like to think we will as humans. Maybe I'm wishful thinking, but that we still want the ease of going through life. Like I hadn't really done Walmart grocery pickup before the pandemic. Like I'd done it like once, but I was like, I like walking around the store. And now I do it all the time. Like I say to my husband, I was like, I never have to leave the house ever again if I don't want to. Like I just order and then he picks it up and it's put in the car. You don't have to talk to someone unless like the guy who loads your groceries is like, I need a 5-star rating, please. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
That's the only person you talk to. And it's exciting because I think those things will stay because we've all found this like love of productivity. We found all these different areas of our life we can streamline. I mean, it's also how subscriptions have continued to grow. They were already growing like crazy before the pandemic. They've continued to go through the pandemic because all these things in your life that you can put on autopilot and you're like, all right, now I can really focus on my job, on me, on my health and wellness. So I think those things will stay.
Yep. Yeah, I think so too. I've started cooking since the pandemic started when
Yeah.
it was like never even interested in like trying cooking, and now I'm like getting way into it, and I think I'm gonna keep doing it even after I have to start going to an office and traveling again. So hopefully like everyone's picking up stuff that they like doing also that can stay with them, or I don't know. I just there's so much like not good stuff going on. I think that it is an opportunity to hopefully find up new things both professionally and personally. Have
Mhm.
you taken up any personal hobbies that are new for you since the pandemic?
I did, not cooking. I mean, I didn't pick up cooking because I didn't like to cook before. I still don't like it. However, I did take up dancing. My husband and I started like Fred Astaire dance studio dancing. And I'm not great, but I really like it. It's a lot of fun. It gives me something that challenges me. I've also taken up actually working out. Like for years I've said I work out. But that was really a lie. And so now I actually do it. And which makes it harder to be like, I work out and people are like, you've done it for years. And I was like, oh, that I was lying before. Now I work out because I have time. I'm not commuting. I'm not doing any of that. And then I've actually found this is going to sound horrible. I love my children, but I found a newfound love for my children because I'm actually spending time with them instead of the commuting, instead of the things like I'm finding our engagements a lot more exciting and entertaining than maybe I did before when my life was just like a complete blur. So that has been real. There are little silver linings in all of this that has been nice.
Yep. Yeah, and you mentioned also your team working really well together and being really proud of what your team's doing. That's another like crazy thing. You've never met these people in person, yet it sounds like you guys are working just as effectively as if you were in the office together every day. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, what are some like team building techniques, or like what makes a team work even without having strong in person connection?
Well, the great news is, again, you have foresight into their personal lives because they're on the phone and you hear a kid losing their mind in the background. And I can relate to that. So I'm like, oh, my kids lose their mind too. Let's talk about that. Um, like puppies barking, things like that. That helps build rapport and relationships. You have video conferences, but then I think one on one phone conversations sometimes are shockingly more intimate in a way than in-person conversations, right? Because you're usually on the fly walking by an office. Your phone conversations are like, hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling? It's just you and me. It's like, what are you doing? And so it creates a relationship that you build together. And our team is amazing. And I know I say amazing a lot, but like they really are. We don't have any, like, we give radical candor feedback. We share with each other. We're all there for the same reason. Um, and so it makes it easy. I will tell you though that I'm excited to meet them like from the waist down soon because that's all you see on a Zoom is like shoulders up. I spoke to a woman not on my team the other day who she was like, I'm going to be out on maternity leave soon. I was like, you're pregnant? Like what? Because you never saw, like you never, like if she would have walked by, I would have known. But like in this
Right.
case, you see shoulders up, right? So I am excited. And now that with people getting vaccinated, we're going to start to see more. I posted on LinkedIn, like I booked a flight to go out to California to meet the team and can't wait. Can't wait to do it. Um, I don't think it'll change me. Like I'll come back and work and there's good amount of work that'll get done here and good amount of work that'll get done there. But it's nice to be able to have that flow back and forth of in person versus remote.
Yep. Yeah, and that's one thing. You know, at Spaceback, our team has grown quite a bit during the pandemic, and we have a lot of people who haven't met in person. And I'm kind of struggling with figuring out the right way to, have an in-person event. And I feel
Yeah.
like some people are, you know, let's go. Like I miss you guys. Like we have so much fun together. Like let's get together in person. And other people I feel like are more cautious. And it honestly, if someone's has a baby at home and doesn't want to travel for a year because they don't feel comfortable, I don't want to force them. So I'm kind of struggling with like the right way to approach that. With the team dynamics and as a leader, and when people have different like comfort levels. And I think for now it's just we have to make the digital stuff work, and as best we can, and we'll hopefully when everyone's vaccinated it will be when we can do it. But that's great that you can start to do some in-person stuff with your team now. Are they mostly in California?
Yes, all of them are. And I can't wait. Like, it would have been really nice if like January in Wisconsin versus January in California feel very different. I would have loved to spend January in California, but I will take April any day right now. So it is nice. I think in the meeting and convention space, we're going to see a lot of that, of in-person conferences and meetings with a virtual component, for the same reason that you mentioned, which is some people won't feel comfortable coming in person, and that's okay. So let's give a best of both worlds, especially because we've seen that virtual conferences can do okay, virtual events can do okay. And so again, it sped up that space too. Like Brand Innovators, for example, has done a stellar job of bringing their events virtual. And not all companies can say that, but they've learned over the first couple months, and they probably will tell you the same thing, that now they have an unlock, and like events like this can happen, and learnings can like this can happen, and they'll probably still be that component when we go back in person.
Yep. Yeah, and it's made it, I think, a lot easier to engage too, or like going to an event, without having to travel and lose, as much time as you would now. Like you can get the learnings from, your own couch or living room or home office, wherever you happen to be, uh, and and then get right back into your workday or start your
Mhm.
evening. So
And we found out things very quickly, right? Like long form content is harder virtually than short form content, right? You can keep someone's attention span, and we all know that, virtually a lot shorter than if I lock them in a room with me in person, right? So there have been learnings. It's not exactly the same, but I think we'll have the best of both worlds soon.
Yep. Nice. So want to learn a little bit more about like paid marketing also, and how you think about the different channels that you're in there. Like, has the pandemic changed much around like advertising on social, or using a DSP, the I guess old school way that we think of the demand side platform kind. What's your approach to the paid marketing mix right now?
I think that the gentleman who was speaking before me said it best, which he was like, well, everybody's cut the cord now. To be fair, they were cutting the cord before. It just, again, accelerated it because it's a cheaper option for a lot of folks. But looking at where our customer is, where we can find them, and we continue, just like every other company in the world, shifting spend to digital, right? Like you have to, you don't have a choice. And I think connected TV, which soon won't be called connected TV, it'll just be called TV, right? Because everybody will have it. I know that's crazy. It's funny how traditional media used to be called just media. And then we had to call it traditional media because this new crazy internet marketing thing came on. And now when you talk about marketing, people just assume it means all marketing. They're not really, it's not traditional versus digital or any of those. And now connected TV is like the fancy new word we all use all the time. But it's where our customers are, and really going after where they are, like everyone, being able to track that and study what their patterns are and how we can incentivize another. In restaurants, we're always looking for how do we increase that average ticket, or how do we get another transaction, right? So Panera, they rolled out coffee subscription, and I was talking to someone who goes, I don't understand why they did that. Like, why would they just give away coffee? I was like, because it drives people into their restaurants, and they're hoping that at least one of those times you buy a croissant or a bagel with it. And coffee, I don't know if we all know this, is pennies. It's like giving away popcorn at the movie theater. It costs you nothing. So, yeah, we do invest a lot in digital, and we'll continue to.
Nice. And yeah, I'm not a coffee drinker myself, but I saw ads everywhere when they rolled out that coffee subscription, and
I think they did it like 2 months before the pandemic too. Like, oh, what sucks for them. But like they're now bringing it back. Like I'm getting an ad almost every day for it.
Nice. So the old school DSPs, you're using them, you connected TV, and it sounds like you're in a lot of different channels.
Mm-hmm.
That brings me to like the new DSPs. Like I imagine a lot of the ordering, is happening, is delivery and stuff now. So how are you like driving traffic to the Uber Eats and DoorDashes of the world, or how do partnerships work with, those kind of companies? Do you attribute like, sales to different platforms that you're using?
So we do attempt to attribute sales to I mean, I don't think we're any better or worse off than most folks out there as it relates to attribution. We always talk about like golden attribution. It doesn't exist. It doesn't feel like. We do drive to, we would love for people to come to us direct to order. If they want delivery, you can click delivery in our app. It will go to a third party, just as most folks do. But it's hard to say like how many people are going to DoorDash that are Del Taco customers who just have decided they want delivery through DoorDash, or how many people are going to DoorDash and being like, I don't know what to have. Okay, I'll get Del Taco, right? The same goes for like, we've also found that people who they search for a good deal. So they'll have Postmates and Uber and DoorDash and all these guys on their phone, and they're checking for like who has free delivery or who has this. And they're not necessarily dedicated only to one. But then we see DoorDash roll out Dash Pass and Uber Eats roll out a pass. And so everybody has a subscription model now. So like the question really is, does that make them more loyal to just one platform, or are they still ordering off another? But you don't know, because none of them are sharing their data with each other. The only thing you can do is listen to the earnings call and hope that you pick up on some special note. But I don't know. The answer is I don't know. I don't know if our customers are always incremental. I think there is some incrementality on those third-party deliveries. Do I think it's fully incremental? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I imagine that has a lot to do with kind of understanding your customer attribution model. And some customers I assume are loyal to Del Taco, where they're looking for the best deal on any DSP, but they're going to order Del Taco either way, versus those are that would be discovering you through these kind of apps. And it sounds like Verdict is still kind of out as to how much of that discovery happens versus people who are already Del Taco customers.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. I'm starting to get a few questions from the audience here. So I'll read one here. One is like, what do you see as the biggest future challenge with digital ordering and retail, and what is the biggest opportunity?
For digital ordering, what's the biggest challenge? Oh, okay. All right. So let's talk about the future challenge. Is that what the question? The future challenge for retail?
Yep. Biggest challenge and opportunity when it comes to like digital ordering.
I would say opportunity for digital ordering. Well, I would say pre-pandemic, it was that people were going into your stores. They were going into your restaurants. They were going into your Walmart of the world. And you had all this opportunity to advertise to them when they were inside, right? For their next visit, and tell them a whole story because you had them. They were inside of your four walls. But now they're not coming into your four walls necessarily. So how do you tell them the same story and give them the same experience without them ever setting foot inside of your four walls? I think that QSR has a little bit of a leg up because we've always had a drive-through. So we've always had this idea of like, they may never set foot inside of our location. How do we continue to tell them the story? I think retail, like brick and mortar only buildings, have an even bigger challenge because they have relied on people coming into their four walls all the time. And so now they're going, how do I tell the story? And those are the ones we're seeing really heavily shift to digital. And they all of a sudden made a bunch of changes this year. The future, I think, is going to then, what's that opportunity and what will change? I think the future of that is a lot more will happen above the store, a lot more. And when I say above the store, outside of those four walls, a lot more of the storytelling, a lot more of the, on the phone, all of those things, so that when you walk in, if you do walk in, you already know what you're getting, right? There's no question of like, hey, where are we? And what is this place? And it's no more of like just to show up and being like, let's try that. Like you've done all your research beforehand. I think that's really where the future is it will happen above store versus in store.
Yeah, and that's a big mind shift too from like the old school, way of thinking about restaurants is like the experience is, there and dining and ordering and all of that versus the experience becoming from like, how you are first introduced to Del Taco to how you think about the menu, like all of that stuff isn't really happening in the drive-through line anymore, or in the store. How about so another question from the audience? I actually really like this question. Is what are the skills that you would like your team to develop this year? So it sounds like your team's already working great, but are there like new things that are skill sets that you think your team needs to develop more of because of the changing needs?
Well, I hope that's not one of my team members asking that. No, they wouldn't ask that because I'm not quiet about what I think development. It depends on them. I don't think so. I'll answer this the way the person is looking probably for, but then also personally, I don't think that there's a one-stop shop for everyone. I think it's all about situational leadership. So one of the things we do on my team is we all do the Gallup Strength Finder. We look at what our top 5 core strengths are. We really lean into those strengths so that we have a diverse team of people who are really good at different things. And then if there's certain things that will help them continue to grow and learn, then we add those on it, but it's different for every single person on the team. It's never this, like rarely the same, because what I need to work on and what you need to work on are probably 2 different things. All right, now throw that answer out the window because the person asking the question is probably like, that doesn't answer my question. So to answer the question of like digital first, like what are those things you need to look at? It's a future forward thinking approach to things. So are you resourceful? And I'll tell you this, they did a study. I don't remember who did this study, but it was looking at people who had applied for jobs. And then they followed these people who got hired through their career. And what they looked at is, what did they apply on? What browser did they apply for the job on? And they looked at people who applied through Google Chrome or like Firefox, and people who applied through Internet Explorer, or whatever comes loaded on your computer. And then they looked at who stayed in their job and who was successful and continued to move up. And people who had applied through Chrome and Firefox were much more successful and continued to move up in their roles, while people who had applied through Internet Explorer had left. And I will tell you, when I first read it, someone goes, well, so I'm just going to apply for jobs using Chrome. And I was like, no, that's not the answer. The answer is, what they find is, so Internet Explorer, it comes loaded on your computer, right? Like it's like just what's there. And Chrome, Firefox, there's a resourcefulness in having to go out and find those browsers and be like, I think there's something better out here. I'm not making any judgments. If you need to use an Internet Explorer, it's fine. But there's a resourcefulness about thinking, is this the best? And have I asked all the right questions to find what I should use? And then you had to go download something and then use that browser. And it's about resourcefulness. So I would hope that my team continues to learn and cultivate the skill of resourcefulness. So that means if I hand them a project, don't just come back to me with like, here it's done, but like, here it's done. Also, I have these questions and I have these thoughts, and I'm guessing you wanted me to do this project for this reason, and here's how we can move forward with it. Like, take it to the next level. All right, now one step deeper, and then I promise I'll shut up, which is digital wise basics. Make sure you have your Google Analytics certification. Do not come and talk to me about numbers and like you don't understand how Google Analytics work. there are so many free services out there. There's Google Analytics, HubSpot. All of these guys have free trainings online. So you don't have to be like, well, I don't have $3,000 to do this certification. They're free. Go take them. Make sure you have your certifications in those things. Facebook ad certification, like all of those things are free. At least you know what's being said when people talk about it out there in the world.
Yep, makes sense. And I think that's totally something I appreciate too, is like autonomy, where like, you know, when you ask someone to you know, to look into something and they are looking into the reasons why and come back to you with probably some of the questions that, like, if you spent more time, like, could have been part of the assignment, and like already answering those, like, yeah, it sounds like you have a really great team. And yeah, I think that's something that, like, total takeaway for all teams right now is like, just being able to, I think, be adaptive. And, you know, it's less about domain expertise and more about being able to, like, you know, learn new things quickly and jump in and have an impact. um I do have a few more questions from the audience. I don't think we're gonna get to all of them, but here's another one that's kind of about marketing strategy. And you know, obviously Del Taco has a ton of national locations, and some of those locations, like, you know, are different places that may be opening faster than others. And um, does the marketing strategy vary by location? Is it more about, you know, the national brand, you know, identity, or is there different messaging and different strategy based on region or specific store location?
In most restaurant concepts, there's a national component, there's a DMA component, and there's a local component, meaning like right around your location. And we're no different. So the difference is, like, we're a regional brand, right? We're not in all 50 states. We're in a lot of states, but not all 50. And being able to have that DMA buying ability, but then localize again with digital, it makes it very easy. It used to be you didn't have a choice, right? You had to take out an ad or a national broadcast commercial, and then markets that don't have any of your locations would see your ad and you'd be like, well, that was a waste of money unless we're eventually going to come there, right? In this case, digital makes it real easy to really target in on the local level, which creates cost savings. It creates the ability to have dynamic content that speaks right to that local level. And so, yes, we do vary the advertising by location.
Nice. And are there like different products and different messages by location, or is it more about like making sure you're in areas where there's a store?
Yeah, not necessarily different products always. Like we might test something in one location, but it could be different type of messaging. It could be what resonates. Like one product might resonate differently than another product. But I mean, it's a constant test and evolve. And I think that goes for anyone who grew up in the digital space understands that you're just always testing, right? You never set it and forget it. There's never like a time you turn on the light switch and you go, oh, that light looks good, I'm done. Nope, we're always optimizing it.
Yep, right on. Well, I assume Emily's here because our time to wrap up is near. But I will just drop again one thing Erin shared: 2 free tacos if anyone gets the app. I know I'm gonna get it. And the loyalty program, when can we expect that?
Later this fall, yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Erin. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you both so much. You guys have such exciting things on the horizon, so I know we're all excited and anxiously awaiting those. So thank you so much for being here. You're always a great addition to our programs, and such a great way to close out today's session on marketing innovation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emily.
Guys. Well, thanks so much to Erin and Casey for closing out today's summit. And thank you to everyone who tuned in and continues to support Brand Innovators. We wouldn't be where we are today without our incredible community of brand marketers. We hope you all tune in for our next live cast taking place this Thursday. We have 2 amazing programs set. At 9 a.m. Eastern, we'll be going live with our next international live cast, hearing from marketing executives based all around the world from brands like Expedia, Amazon, and many more. And later in the day at noon Eastern, we'll be producing an influencer marketing summit with our partners at Influential. We hope to see you then. Thanks.